Welcome to Impact Innovators with Felicia Ford, where we dive into the strategies that empower changemaker brands to leave a lasting legacy. Think of this podcast as your audio playbook for meaningful action. What's possible when thought leaders, disruptors, and pioneers align to share their journeys? I'm Felicia Ford, your host, bringing together the brightest minds and the most groundbreaking ideas to help you drive change, navigate through the sticky stuff, and elevate your brand. Whether you're tackling funding hurdles, looking for growth strategies, or seeking the perfect balance between profit and purpose, we've got you covered. Stay tuned and be a part of a movement that's setting new benchmarks in how we think about progress, community, and doing. Let's innovate, impact, and inspire. Hey friends, welcome back. I have an amazing person sitting across from me right now. Usually we start these conversations and I go right into this introduction, but I have to tell you that I paused for about 12 seconds to process what he shared with me, and he's going to share that with us. It wasn't planned, but I wanted to speak to those of you who've poured your energy into your brand, but you may have been struggling with articulating the outcomes of your work. It may seem to fall flat, and that might have led to missed opportunities that should have been game changers. You may be wondering if your work is being seen. Is it becoming irrelevant in your industry? And are you looking for a way to raise your banner and attract those meant for you? Terrell Humphrey knows exactly what it's like to support those of you who feel unheard. From producing over 893 podcast episodes to turning his own journey from zero to $100,000 in just 90 days, he's mastered the art of giving a platform to voices that are driving change. Terrell is on a mission to help 1 billion entrepreneurs find their voice and amplify their message to the world. In today's episode, Terrell is sharing his strategies for creating a message that reaches, helping entrepreneurs just like you not just stay relevant, but lead the conversation. Terrell, my friend, I am so glad that you're here and that you're safe.
I appreciate it, Felicia. Thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here.
Oh, it's a blessing to meet you. Terrell started off with sharing with me that, are you comfortable? Is it okay that,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
That's fine. That's me.
So share with the audience, Terrell, what you just shared with me. And by the time they hear this, it'll be a couple weeks past the moment, but right now we're still in the moment. So what has your journey been like to get to here?
So today, or I just speak on this week. So this week, there's a hurricane in Florida called Hurricane Milton. And during this time, they was telling us to you have to evacuate Florida. Like you don't know where you want to go. Do we have the shelters here? But you're still in Florida. Not saying that the shelters are not good or anything in that nature, but they gave us a mandatory evacuation because we was in Zone B. They had different zones, so we was in Zone B, and it was like you have to evacuate because the hurricane's coming straight through like Tampa. And so me and my wife, we was like, okay, so where are we going to go? It's like, I don't know. So
Oh,
we gotta figure something out.
uh,
So we looked at the map, and we at first we wasn't going to Jacksonville, but it's still in Florida, and it looked like it was going in that direction. Not saying that it's going to hit that direction, but I'd
mhm,
rather be out of the direction so that way
right.
it turns, or if it go in a different direction, we're nowhere near it. And so she was like, let's go to Atlanta. I'm like, Atlanta was like 7 hours. It's a drive. I said, okay, well, okay. So it was around like 2:30, 3 o'clock, maybe October 9th,
Mm-hmm,
2024. It
mm-hmm.
was told to evacuate, and then we got all our stuff. Well, not all our stuff, but we got the most important things put
Mm-hmm.
in the car, and then we start driving. It was supposed to be a 7 hour drive, but it turned out to be a 12-hour drive
Oh,
because it was so long. It was so long. So imagine being in traffic for like an hour, but every time you look down, the hour does not move.
oh,
Like you're moving, but the time is increased rather than decreasing.
oh.
So we're here today. We was able to evacuate the 12-hour drive and make it to Atlanta safely and sound. And today we're here with Felicia doing this amazing podcast.
Listen, I remember a term that I learned in undergrad that excuses are the tools of incompetence. I'm not going to finish it, but the fact that you're here, that you're sitting in, like, I have chills. The the protection and the favor and the ability. We know that some aren't going to be able to have this story. And so I think about that. But I also think about you're a stranger. I'm a stranger to you, but you showed up through all of that. And I don't even know how to share the gratitude. And I just feel like it's a testament of your perseverance and your faith and your tenacity just to show up here to share your story, Terrell. So I'm I don't know if thank you is enough to say, but thank you. And I'm so glad that you and your family are safe right now. And I pray that whatever you go back to is that it will be. I'm just speechless. Like I'm just imagining, like what could you be going back to? I have a friend that lives on the west coast, the east coast of Florida, and she and her family stayed. And I saw video of her experience over the night and into this morning. And maybe an hour ago, she was like, "Yeah, we have 2 more hours to go through, but we're hanging tough." So I'm praying for those that are still in Florida and praying for whatever it is that you all go back to. But again, I'm grateful that you're here today. And I said that as a Marine Corps veteran, I can only imagine how that experience brings into this moment and moments like it. But can you share with us how did you get here? I mean, not here today, but here as 800 plus podcast episodes and deciding that this was the way that you were going to make your mark in the world right now?
Well, that is a excellent question. First, I do want to say thank you for that. You say that you don't know if thank you is enough. It is enough because it's an acknowledgement. So don't feel like your thank you not meaningful because it definitely is. So
Yeah.
first, I do say, Felicia, I appreciate you for acknowledging that. So to introduce who I am, my name is Terryl Humphrey, and what got me started along this journey is that I grew up in a single parent household, raised by a single mom, raising three boys by herself. And throughout the journey, throughout us growing up, she always provided. She always showed up. She always made it a point to support us. She didn't give up. She didn't make no excuses, and she found a way to make anything happen. And
Hmm.
as I got older, I started to really pay attention to like raising three boys by yourself as a woman is difficult. But
Right.
you raised my mama raised three boys by
Yeah.
herself, had to pay the bills, had to feed herself, had to take care of everything, had to support, had to be the dad. So when I really got older, it really made me understand that my mama went through a lot. So I started asking questions like, "How did you even make it? Like, how? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did you make it?" She was like, "Son, I had no other option. I had
Mm-hmm.
no other option because y'all were my responsibilities.
Mm.
Like, my three sons was my responsibility. That's what I was focused on." And so as I got older, I started to really pay attention to the work ethic that my mama has. Mama has over 9 degrees. You said something
Wow.
about undergraduate. Yes.
Wow.
My mama has 9 degrees. So you know how many different classes you have to go through to get one?
Yeah.
Has 9 degrees. So
Yeah.
the she's able to push through being a single mom, being a single parent, raising three boys, getting an education, working, surviving, providing. She's going through so much, but she never made an excuse. So
Mm.
I started finding myself, and then when I joined the Marine Corps, I joined the Marine Corps because I wanted something more. I didn't know what more looked like. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know what it seemed like because I'm from a small town, from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
A lot of people have never even heard of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Right.
It's a great town, but it's a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to Marine Corps training, I was there, and it was so many different people coming from all different parts of the world into one training facility.
Yeah.
What I've learned is that even though we're different, we're still trying to find ourselves.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, what's different here? What's the point here? So during the training of becoming a Marine, I had to learn how to be a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that he's called a drill instructor. Those people that's in drill instructor teaching the recruits how to be a Marine. He says we don't see color here. We just see green. Our uniform, like underneath our uniform, it was green shirt, green shorts.
Mhm.
They can't see green, which means that there's no division. Like we see you as one. We
Mhm.
see you as one, and you matter. And so, coming from a single parent household, now I'm in the Marine Corps. My mom instilled the discipline in us. Like I'm not afraid of nothing now. I'm a single mom. I'm afraid of her. I
Right.
remember getting whoopings. Them whoopings hurt, but I had the discipline.
Right.
I had the structure. So when I got to Marine Corps training, the structure I already had it.
Mm.
So it's just really introducing me to what a Marine was, to what more was, to what more looks like. And
Mm.
so I'm doing in the training, I'm learning more about how to be a Marine. We're doing the knowledge, we're studying, we're learning. I'm able to really pay attention to myself once I get out the training. So
Mhm.
when I start learning more about myself, learning more about what I would like to do, I start to figure out that it's possible, but what's possible? I
Yeah.
picked up my first camera, I picked up my phone and made my first video back in 2020 during COVID.
Mhm.
I picked up the camera, I never put it down because it changed my life.
Mm.
Even though COVID-19 shut down the world, my world began to open because I was willing to start with my phone.
Mic drop. That's pretty that's pretty powerful. Uh, the world was shutting down, but my world was opening up. Terrell. Okay. So, a few things. One, I know what it's like to I come from a small town too. I'm gonna say we're built different, right?
Mhm.
I have friends who were raised by single parents. You're built differently. I know some people who've gone through Marines. The entire world knows that people who are Marines are different people. You're a different breed of people. It is what it is. But now you've combined all of this into this one vessel, this one person who just recently really has created this incredible mission and this incredible movement of helping 1 billion, not a million, not 1,000, not 100, but 1 billion, right? So what was that moment like for you to say, all right, I have my story, but there are others' stories who need to be told?
When I went through my divorce. So I got married at 21. I got
Mhm.
divorced at 23.
Mhm.
But during the divorce stage, it was difficult for me because I had to learn more about myself. I had to learn and stop asking the question, why did I have to go through this? Like why me? Why me? And so when I remember this one time, my buddy, I was stationed in San Diego, California, and we went to this place where it was like a hill, but it had so many different hills, but we're running this hill. And so when we went there, it was like maybe 6 guys and maybe 2 women, if I'm not mistaken. So we're just running, we're just exercising. And so as we're running and exercising, okay, before we start running and exercising, we're walking down the hill. We, catch a little conversation, just small talk. And one of the guys that I was speaking with, he said he was having relationship problems as well.
Mm.
I'm like, man, yeah, so like I'm going through a divorce. We're about to go through the divorce. We're separated right now. In California, you have to wait 6 months to be officially divorced, but you can separate within like 6 months or something like that.
Mhm.
And so I'm talking to him, like, yeah, man, like I'm going through this divorce. Like it's hard on me because I just don't understand why me. And
Mm.
I'm a good guy. I don't want to go through this hard time. I thought I was a good guy.
Right.
So he ended up saying something that made me really pay attention to it. He was like, man, I'm having the same problems because I don't think I'm good enough for this relationship. I don't think this relationship is going to even work out.
Mm.
And it hit me. I'm like, there's no way that you're having the same issue that I'm having, and
Mhm.
we didn't even meet. We just met. We met
Mhm.
today. And so as we was talking, as we was walking down the hill, and we was like speaking amongst each other, I was just learning. I was just thinking, I'm like, how's this even possible? Like, how?
Yeah.
I'm going through my situation, but I thought I was the only one experiencing it.
Mm.
When I
Okay.
was speaking to him, he made me realize I wasn't the only one. I was
Right.
the only one because I was the only one in this area.
Mm.
I went to a different environment, to a different place, to a different location. He taught me there's more people struggling. So then I started really taking video creation series. At the time, I didn't know it was called podcasting, but I was creating a lot of videos. I really was taking it serious. I remember
Mhm.
there was one time I had made 7 videos within 7 days, and I had 7 different shirts. But I had the vision. I'm like, okay, if I'm going through this problem, if I'm experiencing this pain, if I'm experiencing this struggle, someone is experiencing the same thing, but they just don't know how to communicate it.
Mm,
Picked up the book called Single on Purpose.
mm,
And Single on Purpose is a book that teaches you more about yourself.
okay.
Even though you go through a hard time, it's not the end of the world. Even though you experience something heartbreaking, it's not the end of the world. Even though you're the one that's going through this trauma, it's not the end of the world because there's more people that's experiencing the same thing.
Right.
And so when I went to the training, I was speaking to the guy, he made me realize that I'm not the only one, but I have to start with me so I can help others. But in order to help others, I have to be okay with helping myself.
Ooh, that's a word. That's a word. I love that this, again, the fact that all of this is happening in the last less than 10 years for you, is indicative of what it means to be a change maker and what it means to arrive to that moment. I actually, ironically, again, so today's October 10th, but I shared a message this morning on Facebook about proximity. And sometimes we think proximity is just in the physical, but you just described how proximity really starts with your idea of who you are, your self concept, your self identity, and how you relate to other people. And that one person, I don't even know if do you still know this person? Have you seen
Oh,
this
we
since?
don't, nah, no.
So see how life-changing moments are in a matter of seconds and how that's just propelled you into this space where now you've got nearly 900 episodes produced and you're working on this documentary that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But, you just shared a little bit about how your life has changed and moments of real change, right? Divorce, moving, you were on the West Coast, now you're on the East Coast. That's a lot of different things happening, but still you have this drive to continue to share your story. And I shared with someone, I want to say earlier this week on another episode, what is her Desaya Bennett. She is in New York City and she's helping youth who are incarcerated or in foster care. She's teaching them tech. She's got this tech company. She was in foster care herself. She was also raised by um well, her mother left her stepfather, but she ended up in foster care. And I said to her, which is what I'm about to say to you, the experiences that you've gone through could have led you to have this bitter approach to life and this woe is me attitude about it, but you have not done that at all. You've done the exact opposite and said, okay, bet. Let's do this and let's bring more people along. What are some stories that you have shared on your podcast, Terrell, that have been some of the most memorable?
That's a loaded question because let me tell you why it's a loaded question. Because every podcast has its own story related to it.
Mhm.
And as I'm creating different podcast episodes, I remember one time my wife, she got upset with me. She was like, "You didn't share this story with me." I'm like, "Well, it comes up at different times."
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that when you are sharing your story, you're sharing your story because there's a point behind it. If
Hmm.
you're just sharing your story and not being able to connect a reason behind it, like you're not experiencing nothing. I give you
Right.
a prime example. Me and my wife, we went to the gym. So we work out together every now and then. And so when we went to the gym, it was probably 5:45 in the morning. And so as we were working out, I moved, what like the dip bar machine is, so you can move the lever up and down.
Right.
So I got the machine or the little piece and I moved it up just one. It wasn't even far. I moved it up just one lever and I put it on. And so when I got to doing the exercises, which are dips, which I'm on the bottom
Mhm.
on the equipment, I'm lifting my body up. So as I'm lifting my body up, I dip and the bar dipped and hit me. So now I have a cut on my eye.
Mm.
But when it hit me, I'm like, oh, I hold my eye. My wife came up. She was like, oh my God, what just happened? What just happened? I'm like, I don't know. Let me feel it first. Let me feel the pain first, then I can tell you. And so she got my jacket, put the jacket over my eye. And so we ended up going to the house first. She cleaned it up and then put a band-aid over it. And then I went to the hospital.
Mm.
Once I went to the hospital, they was like, yeah, so what happened? I was like, yeah, I was working out. And then as I was working out, as I dipped, the machine dipped and hit me. I was like, oh, okay. Did you have a concussion? Like, were you dizzy or nothing like that? I said, no, it was, it's just a bruise. And so they ended up stitching me up. So my eye is swollen now.
Mm.
Like, I've never seen my eye this swollen, but it's swollen. So now I'm in college in business management. So I have to go to college with a bruise on my face,
Mhm.
with a scar on my face. I have to go there. Now I have to go with the scar on my face, and I have to also make the videos. Have to record the podcast episodes.
Mm.
So even though I went through this pain, I didn't use it as an excuse to not show up.
Right.
Learn that when you go through something, it's a lesson here. The
Mm.
lesson from the machine is to double check it. The
Yeah.
machine fault. It's not the machine fault that I got injured. It was my fault because
Mm.
when I moved the lever up, I didn't attach it. I didn't secure it. I didn't double check it.
Yeah.
That was my fault. So it's rather than saying it's the machine fault, how can it be the machine fault? It's only a machine. I'm the operator. I'm the problem. So I start looking at myself
Mhm.
rather than looking at the machine, what's around me. What did I do wrong? What
Right.
can I do better? What can I improve? So understanding that there's a story behind your pain, you just have to be willing to share your pain to know that there's a lesson behind your story.
Mm. That's incredible. I think that a lot of people in the change making space, whether they're in education or nonprofits, social work, people who are really working with people and helping them through their pain, I think sometimes it's status quo that they don't share their experiences as the professional, right? And some people look at vulnerability as a weakness or as, oh, I keep my private life private and my professional life professional. But what I've seen with guests like you is that when you are able to honor your pain and honor the growth that comes from it, it brings you to this incredible place and space where you're reaching more people, you're seeing more impact, you're leading more impact, you're leading more change. What would you say has been the driver behind you now creating this documentary?
So there's a book. So before I say this disclaimer, I'm not into politics. I'm not
Okay.
into politics. I like marketing. I like business. I like how they position things, right?
Hmm.
So a couple years ago, I picked up this book by Donald Trump called The Art of the Deal.
Hmm.
In I think the early 2000s, he made a show called The Apprentice or
This,
something.
yes. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So I haven't watched this show, but I do want to watch it because they recreated it. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be good because that's the beginning phase
Yeah.
of Donald Trump. So when I picked up the book, the Art of the Deal, the first cover, like you know how I'm gonna give you an example. You know how you have
Hmm.
a book,
Right.
and as soon as you open it, they have letters right there or words right there. It's kind of I think it's kind of like a foreword or something like that.
Right. Right.
As soon as I opened the book, the first sentence said, "If you're gonna dream, why not dream big?" I said, oh, "That's the book right there."
Right.
I don't even need to read it. I haven't to this day. I have not read that book. I have not finished the book because it was
Bro.
you're going to dream. Why not dream big? So in 2022, I had went to this event with a billionaire. His name is Grant Cardone.
Hmm.
So I was in this room, and the billionaire Grant Cardone, he was talking. He was talking. He was like, "This room here is filled with what did he say, $1.6 billion. Like this room alone has that much money." I said, maybe you ain't count my pockets because I'm nowhere near that. I'm
Yeah.
nowhere near that.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, he said he opened up the floor to questions.
Hmm.
And so as he's going around answering different people questions, I end up getting a microphone. So I'm like, okay, what question I'm going to ask? What question I'm going to ask? I'm thinking about it. Like I'm literally like right in front of him. Like I'm in Orange Street. The only thing that's distant is a table. I can see him. I can physically see what I can touch him. And so I have the microphone. I'm thinking what I'm going to say or thinking what I'm going to ask. So he called on me. He said, yeah, bro. So what's your question? So I get outside, I introduce myself. At the time, I was going by Terrell with the Y because I have a Y in my name. Then I met this other guy named Evan Carmichael, but that's another story. But when I answered, when I got up and introduced myself, I said, "My name is Terrell with the Y." And for someone that's aspiring to be a billionaire, what advice would you give? He said, "Don't stop at a million." I'm like, "Wait, I I didn't say million. I said it with the B." He said, "Yeah, I know. I heard you. Don't stop at a million." I'm like, huh. So it goes back to the art of the deal by Donald Trump. If you're going to
Mm-hmm.
dream, why not dream big? Because it takes the same amount of effort to dream small. So why not just
Yes.
dream big when you can reach more and impact more people and inspire more people, just the same amount of people you can inspire from 5 to 10. Why not stretch yourself just a little bit more? So that's where that came from, just being around others that speak what more is and that
Mm-hmm.
show that you can become more.
I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I'm going to say no because I come up with questions as we're conversing. But we started this conversation with you sharing that as one of three boys raised by a single mother, that you didn't know what more looked like, but you knew you wanted more. Then you've shared some of the life experiences that have, I'm sure, matured you and caused pain, but also caused some growth and some reflection. And we talked about proximity and people being around you. And now you're telling me you placed yourself in this room with, I'm assuming this is the 10X conference, maybe. Um,
No.
it wasn't
It
okay.
wasn't even the tennis conference. No, it wasn't. I let that detail out. You mind if I
No,
finish that
go
one?
ahead, please. Yeah.
It wasn't even a tennis conference. It was leading up to the tennis conference.
Okay.
But how I got into this room, I was on Twitter. One day I'm
Mhm.
just scrolling, just scrolling. Then it said, I'm going to be in San Diego tomorrow. Click and register here. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I copy and paste the link. It takes me to the sign up page and I sign up for it. So then when I get there, I'm like, okay, I sign up for it. It ain't cost me nothing. I'm here now. When I get there, I see my name on the name tag. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, I'm in. I'm in. One guy, his name was Anthony Glenn. He was a former Marine as well. So now he's a Marine Corps veteran. And so I recognize him because he used to post a lot. So I'm like, okay, I don't know nobody in here. And mind you, nobody looked like me.
Hmm.
And he was the only one that looked like me.
Mhm.
That
Mhm. I get it. Yeah.
and so we sat by each other, or I sat by him, and he chose to sit in the front. And he asked me, he said, how'd you get invited? I said, invited? I didn't get invited. I don't even know this man. I don't even know this man. I just clicked the ad and signed up for it.
Right.
I said, how you get invited? He said, Grant Cardone invited me. I said, oh, must be nice.
Right.
So to bring it back, I wasn't even supposed to be in the room, but I was in the room because I saw the opportunity.
Mhm. Listen, I say to some people after the interview, we reflect on the progression of the conversation and we reflect on some commonalities and similarities, and I just am like, I love this. We're going to dream big. We're going to go big, or we're going to go home. And going home is not the option. We're going big. This story, I cannot wait to see, starting with a dream, because just this little glimpse during this conversation, it's incredible. And so I won't ask you all the details so that we can actually see it in the documentary of your journey from 0 to 100K in 90 days. But can you give us a sneak peek? Like, how you, I mean, I'm sure people are going to be motivated anyway. And I promise you, Terrell, the amount of feedback that I receive from people when they hear these episodes, now they're going to hear your episode, but then they're also, this whole purpose, your conversation, your interview, is going to be documented in this year's issue of Strategic Edge: Power Moves for Businesses and Nonprofits. And the theme, which people will know by now, but I haven't shared, the theme is called Golden Hour for a reason. And we are focusing on Black led, Black founded, and Black owned businesses. And so The fact that you and we'll go back to this too, but you said there weren't people in the room that looked like me. That is a part of the reason why golden hour is the theme for this issue, is because there are so many of people that are Black and brown people who are changing the trajectory of what it means and what it looks like to, number one, define success. Number two, overcome all of the adversities and the stereotypes and the what ifs and the you shoulds. And they're coming out on the other side blazing. Let's go. Let's do this. And not just for themselves, but let's reach back. And you and your 1 billion people, whether they're Black, brown, yellow, it's going to continue on and create this incredible legacy. So, what sneak peek can you share with us about starting with the dream?
So thank you for bringing it back up because I did not answer it, but I'm going to answer it now.
It's
So the
okay.
secret for starting with the dream is that you have to start with that dream first to know that you have a thought, you have something that can become more. But it's like a seed. It's not. I was talking to my brother. Well, I have a twin brother named Tim, but my other brother that's not my twin brother is like not related. So his name is Tim as well. So not my twin brother Tim, but Tim. And so before I left Little Rock, Arkansas again for the second time, we was talking, we was communicating with one another. He was like, "You have to have faith like a mustard seed." I don't even know if I'm saying the word correctly.
Mustard
He was
seed. Yeah. Hmm.
mustard seed, and I'm like, he's like, "Bro, you know what that is?" I said, "No." He said, "Bro, you can't even see it. You
Yeah.
can't even see it. But when you have so much faith, this seed can grow to something more." Earlier, you asked about what's my favorite podcast episode or a podcast story. I'm like, it all depends. But I
Hmm.
told one story on a podcast episode. When you have a seed and you plant it, you don't think nothing is coming from this. But as you're planting this seed, it's growing underneath first. It's building a foundation. A tree can't be a tree without planting and having roots. And so the seed that's been planted in the ground is helping you be stable. It's
Yeah.
helping you learn. It's helping you grow. It's helping you build. But you have to start with a seed. This seed is a thought. This seed is a dream. This seed is something in your mind. When you plant it and what's being built, you don't see the effort. You don't
Right.
see the work. You don't see what you're putting into yourself. And then one day, a little leaf just pops up, and you start to realize, like, oh, you're on the right path.
Mm.
So when I decided to do the Starting with the Dream documentary, I've learned like I can't go back in history and just look at everything that I've done and just remember every single detail because I've been through a lot. And when I recognize that everyone has a phase, everyone has a journey, rather than me just making $100,000, let me just go publicly and say I'm going from zero to $100,000 so I can always have a story. So I
Mm.
can always have a story. When somebody asks me, "So what was your first $100,000 like?" Well, interesting that you just said that. Well, I created a documentary starting with a dream, and it's about believing in yourself and having an idea and knowing that you can create from this idea when you have a thought from the process. Once you
Yeah.
have a thought from the process, you're able to grow it, you're able to nurture it, you're able to grow more than you can ever imagine. But you have to start with something. You have
Right.
to plant the seed, let the seed grow, let your foundation build, and let your dream build on top of this because now you're able to start with the dream.
Starting with a dream. I can't wait to see it. And did we share this already? When can we expect to see this?
Spring, spring of 2025, so in March of 2025.
Awesome. All right. So you've got this platform. You are helping to spread this message through your podcast, Failure is Knowledge. What would you say has been a part of your, I guess, your plan in getting this word out and sharing your message? Because we talked in a little bit in the beginning when I was introducing you and saying how there are some incredible people in the world doing some incredible things, but they don't necessarily know how to share that and let other people know.
Vulnerability. And
Okay.
I say vulnerability because it's hard to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
As I was going through my divorce, I had to learn that I'm not the problem. I'm just I'm just going through something. I'm just going through pain. But what I recognize is that when I identify one pain, all my trauma came. My dad went in my life. I had abandonment issues. I was raised by a single mom who raised three boys by herself, which she did a phenomenal job. But
Mhm.
now I'm searching for a dad. I'm searching for a role model. I'm searching for someone that I can emulate. There was this program called the OK program, and it had a program full of black men.
Mhm.
And but there was police officers. Nothing wrong with being a police officer, but I just didn't see myself being a police officer. So I have respect for them. I have that amount admiration for them. But it's like I don't see myself being a police officer. So I ain't gonna, you know what I mean? But I'm learning from them. I can learn from them,
Mhm.
but I'm able to just be around others. And what I've learned is that when you go through life and you go through different experiences, you're able to grow. You're not a tree. When a tree is
Right.
planted in a place, it's planted.
Right.
I listen to a lot of Jim Rohn, and he always say that you're not a tree. You can always move. You can always meet. And he always say one video he was like, "This is the part when you be like, of course."
Right. I'm a Jim Rohn fan too. I was over here mouthing as you were saying it. Yes, you are not a tree. You can move. You're giving us so many practical. Sometimes people feel stuck. They feel, and stuck is relative. We know that. But I'm sitting here thinking about businesses that may be on a main street in a small town, or even businesses that are in a town center and they're dependent on foot traffic. But the way that the world moves right now is different. They're not necessarily beating the path and walking past businesses right now. So your podcast, Failure is Knowledge, is digital. It can go in your pocket. It can go in you can be walking with your beats in your ear. And it can go when you're driving around. Share with us, Terrell, how you're focused on making this impact with these billion people through your platform.
Jim Rohn, I'm gonna reference Jim Rohn again. He said his biggest issue when he started a business was scarcity. No, not scarcity. It was obscurity,
Mm,
which means people don't know who you are.
mhm,
Even though you have a brick and mortar business or you have a business in a specific location. I was
mhm.
thinking about this the other day with my wife as we was driving. I'm like, these businesses are businesses, but if you're not driving along this street, you don't know that they exist.
Right,
Obscurity means that no one knows who you are. And so, yes, the Failure is Knowledge podcast is digitally, which means that you can be any and everywhere to listen to it. But it's not just podcasts. What about the other social media platforms? What about the other different ways to advertise? What about the other different ways to market? You have to find a way to get known so that way you're not, so you can get out of obscurity and
right,
get into knowing because people like to see what you're doing.
right.
One time I was talking to this client and she was like, or to this customer, she was like, that I'm going to create a business profile and a personal profile. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work. You can barely manage your personal. Why not just combine the two?
Right.
So when people start to pay attention to what you're doing, now you can start bringing foot traffic, you start bringing attention, you can start bringing more awareness to your business, even if it's a brick and mortar or a specific location, or if it's online. People have to know who you are.
Right.
People have to recognize who you are. And it comes from from you sharing your story. If you share your story, you build relatability. Like, oh, I've been through that. Oh, he was raised by a single mom. He was in the military. Like, it's a reason why I share a lot of stories because I'm marketing. Like, you have to be willing to market yourself
Yeah.
to bring more attention to you.
Yeah.
So,
I
have
think
to be willing to share your story.
right. I'm sitting here and I love that you just shared that. Some of my solo episodes of Impact Innovators is specifically speaking to the change makers who've not yet realized that part, that marketing is simply sharing, that selling is simply serving, right? They attach the word and it somehow shifts the meaning of what they're doing. And then people get into this freeze mode, right? And what you said about visibility, sometimes people have the fear of visibility. It's, wait a minute, when in practical terms, you want people to know about who you are. But then the personal side of you, the limiting belief side of you is, oh my God, what if I'm imposter syndrome? What if it's not enough? What if it's not the best? What if I don't know what I'm doing? But sharing the story, if we just call it that, it's easier for somebody to get up and share their story, or it's easier for them to say, oh, let me share with you how I've helped others do this. So I love that you connect that part, and that is how you are driving this. And there are several books and other podcasts that talk about selling and all these things, but I love the authenticity that you bring to yours, because it's all out there. What you need to know. Right? What do you need to know? So as a not just as a podcaster and a podcast creator, but as a leader, I feel like you're advocating for change, even if it's not explicit in your messaging that you're advocating for change. I see this as a different way. I can't wait to hear about beyond the documentary. What's on the horizon for you? Have you planned that far? Do you have some other things that are coming up that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, yes, I do. Actually, today I told my wife, I said after the documentary, after the 100-day challenge to make $100,000, I'm doing a series to go from $100,000 to $1 million. So that way, I'm constantly building stories on top of one another, and I have proof of concept. If I'm able to do it publicly and I fail, that strengthens the brand.
Right.
Failure is knowledge. You have to fail to gain the knowledge. So even if I fail, I'm still winning
Right.
because the brand is even more stronger. So yes, I've thought about it. We haven't started working on the series just yet, because right now we're working on the challenge and the documentary. But
Absolutely.
if anyone want to check me out, you just go to my Instagram or anything across social media.
Yeah.
Failures Knowledge Podcast, and Terrell Humphrey, TERRYL Humphrey, HUMPHREY, and then underscore.
I'm excited to see and to hear. Terrell, is there one last thing that you would like to share with our audience today about them taking their first step if they're frozen with fear, or they're settling into their failure and can't even dream anymore? What would you like to leave with us?
You just hit it. The first step. First step is the most challenging because it's so overwhelming. Am I taking the right path? Am I taking the right step? Am I taking the right movement? Well, how do you know until you step? So it's easy to say not to think the step, but overthink the step as you're taking it. Like, is this a good step? Rather than saying negative thoughts, start saying positive thoughts. What can come from this step? How can I grow from this step? How can I get to step 2? But you have to start with step 1 and recognize that you are able to do it.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you, Terrell. All right, my friends, you have heard it here. Terrell Humphrey podcast, Failure is Knowledge, and the documentary that it will be available spring of 2025, starting with a dream. Be sure to read the rest of Terrell's story in the interview of Strategic Edge magazine. Thank you, friends. Hey, Changemaker, real quick before you go, if today's episode helped you in some way, the best way to thank me is to head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel, and leave a review. I'd also love to connect with you over on social. You can find me at Friends Call Me Fee. Until next time, keep changing the game.